I never thought the cruelest words I'd ever hear would come from my own daughter, right in front of my grandkids, at the same dining table where their mother taught us what family love means. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications because we share new stories every day, hit like, and tell us in the comments which U.S. city you're watching from. My name is Nicholas, Nick Walker. I'm 65. And all my life I believed family is the most sacred pillar of our existence. My wife, Elizabeth Jane Carter, taught me that during the 32 years we were married. She passed away on March 15, 2021, at 57, taken by cancer that broke all of our hearts. It's been almost 3 years since then, and every day I still miss her laugh, her wisdom, the way she kept our family together. Our daughter, Patricia, everyone calls her Trish, is 38. She was always Elizabeth's pride. She's been married to David Roberts for 15 years and is the mother of my beloved grandkids, Mark, 12, and Ella, 9. During these years as a widower, I've tried to keep alive the family traditions Elizabeth valued so much, especially the Sunday dinners she prepared with so much love. On Sunday, December 10, 2023, I decided to host a special dinner. It wasn't just any date. We were getting close to the second anniversary of Elizabeth's passing, and I felt the need to bring the family together, to remember the good times and keep her legacy of unity alive. I spent the whole afternoon cooking her favorite dish, the chicken pot pie she taught me step by step in our early married years. Trish arrived at 7 p.m. with David and the kids. From the moment they walked in, I sensed something wasn't right. My daughter had that tense look I've known since she was a little girl, that tight expression that appeared when things weren't going her way. David looked uncomfortable, avoiding my eyes, while Mark and Ella ran to hug me with all the energy of their age. "Hi, Dad," Trish said, giving me a kiss on the cheek that felt cold, mechanical. "How are you?" "Fine, honey. I'm glad you all came. Your mother would be happy to see us together like this." For the first few minutes, everything seemed normal. The kids told me about school. David mentioned his job with a construction company, and I served the chicken pot pie with the pride of someone who has perfected a family recipe. But as dinner went on, the tension in the air got thicker. It was during dessert that everything fell apart. Trish had been quiet for most of the meal, answering my attempts at conversation with one-word replies. When I mentioned I'd been thinking about making a few home improvements before the holidays, she sighed with exasperation. "Dad, I honestly don't know why you bother spending so much," she said in a tone that chilled me. "With what it costs to keep a house this big, utilities, groceries, you should be thinking about something more practical." "This house has so many memories of your mother, Trish. It's not just about money, exactly." "Mom's gone, Dad. It's time to accept reality." David tried to calm her. "Trish, please." But she had already crossed an invisible line. She stood up, eyes blazing with a kind of anger I didn't understand, and said the words that would change our relationship forever. "You should have been the one to die, not Mom. She knew how to handle things. She was practical. She understood money shouldn't be wasted on sentimental nonsense. You only know how to spend and live in the past." The silence that followed was deafening. Mark and Ella stared at me wide-eyed, not fully understanding what had just happened, but feeling the tension in the room like a knife. David had gone pale and whispered a Trish, more like a plea than a scolding. I froze, a forkful of pie halfway to my mouth, feeling as if I'd been slapped, an echo not only across my face, but through my entire soul. My daughter's words bounced around in my head. "You should have been the one to die." I didn't answer. I didn't yell. I didn't defend myself. I simply set the fork down on my plate and looked at my daughter, this child I had raised with so much love, whose nightmares I had soothed, whose life I had supported at every stage, who had received my unconditional help for 38 years. "I think it's best if you leave," I said in a voice I barely recognized as mine. Trish realized she had gone too far, but pride kept her from apologizing. David quickly gathered the kids, murmured an apology on her behalf, and in 5 minutes, my home was quiet again. I sat at that table, surrounded by dirty dishes and the echo of the most hurtful words I had ever heard, wondering how we had reached this point, how the daughter I loved so much could wish me dead with such coldness. That night I couldn't sleep. Trish's words kept ringing in my mind, and for the first time since Elizabeth died, I felt completely alone in the world. By 3 a.m, I was wandering the house like a ghost. Sleep was impossible after what happened at dinner. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Trish's voice repeating those poisonous words. You should have been the one to die, not Mom. I couldn't understand how my own flesh and blood could hold so much contempt for me. I walked to the kitchen, washed the dinner dishes with mechanical movements, put away leftovers no one had finished. The chicken pot pie I'd prepared with such care now seemed to mock me from the fridge. All that effort, all that hope of keeping Elizabeth's traditions alive, turned to ashes in my mouth. I poured a glass of water and went to the living room. There was a portrait of Elizabeth that Trish had given me on the first anniversary of her death. In the photo, my wife smiled with that warmth she always carried, that light that made any problem feel solvable. What would you do in my shoes, my love? I asked the photo, knowing there'd be no answer. It was her eyes in that picture that gave me the idea. For almost 3 years, I'd avoided going too deep into our bedroom. I slept there, of course, but some corners remained untouched, like sacred spaces from our life together. Elizabeth's closet was one of those places. Her dresses still hung where she left them. Her perfume sat on the vanity, her shoes in neat rows. Maybe it's time to do something with her clothes, I thought. Donate them to a local charity. Elizabeth would have wanted me to help other women. The idea comforted me a little. It would honor her memory in a constructive way, much better than brooding over my daughter's cruel words. I went upstairs with renewed resolve. I switched on the bedroom light and walked to the big oak wardrobe we bought together 20 years ago. When I opened it, the smell of her favorite perfume hit me like a wave of nostalgia. Jasmine and vanilla, the scent that made her unique and irresistible. I started taking out the dresses, one by one. The navy blue she wore for special occasions, the floral one she loved for Sunday church, the elegant black she saved for important events. Every piece told a story, brought back a specific memory. There was a pink blouse I'd bought her for our 20th anniversary, a gray sweater she wore on her last birthday. As I worked, my mind began to settle. This farewell ritual felt necessary, almost healing. Elizabeth had always been generous, always thinking of others. Donating her clothes would be exactly what she wanted. At the back of the closet, my fingers caught on something unexpected. Behind a few sweaters tucked deep in the corner, I found a shoebox I didn't remember seeing before. It was simple brown cardboard, placed oddly, almost hidden behind clothes she rarely used. I pulled it out, surprised by its weight, and saw my name on the lid in Elizabeth's unmistakable handwriting. For Nick, open when you truly need it. The date underneath read March 2021. My heart sped up. March 2021, the month she died. How had she prepared something for me without ever mentioning it? During her illness, we talked about everything. Our memories, our regrets, our love. She never mentioned a box. I sat on the bed, the box shaking slightly in my hands. Open when you truly need it. What had Elizabeth considered truly needed? Had she somehow guessed a night like this would come, when I'd feel lost and betrayed by my own family? I opened the box slowly, as if it contained something sacred. Inside was a thick envelope, some folded documents, and a small leather journal I recognized as her personal diary. The envelope had my name again, written in that familiar hand I'd seen on 1,000 grocery lists, love notes, and reminders. I slid the letter out with trembling hands. The paper carried the faint scent of her perfume, as if it had been kept with her favorite clothes. I unfolded the pages and began to read. My dear Nick, if you're reading this, It means I'm no longer with you, and you found this box at a moment when you truly need it." For a moment the words blurred as my eyes filled with tears. It was her voice, like she was speaking to me from beyond, still finding a way to care for me even after she was gone. I kept reading, and with every line, my understanding of the world began to shift in ways I never imagined. Elizabeth had kept secrets she was about to reveal from the grave, exactly when I needed them most. The letter wouldn't just offer comfort, it would change how I saw my situation with Trish and the choices available to me. Without knowing it, Elizabeth had prepared a tool, a last gift to arrive right when my daughter's betrayal had left me most vulnerable. That box hadn't appeared by chance that night. It appeared exactly when it was necessary. With hands still shaking, I kept reading Elizabeth's letter. Her words flowed as if she were sitting next to me, whispering in my ear the secrets she'd kept for years. "Nick, during the last 8 years of my life, I worked part-time at Carol's Flowers downtown. I never told you because I wanted it to be my little project, something that gave me independence and purpose beyond being a wife and mother. Every dollar I earned, I saved carefully, putting small amounts into a special savings account in my name." I paused. Elizabeth had worked in secret for 8 years. How had I not noticed? I remembered those afternoons when she said she was walking downtown, running errands, visiting friends. In reality, she'd been building something for us, for our future, without me knowing. I didn't keep it secret because I didn't trust you, my love. I did it because I wanted to surprise you on our 30th wedding anniversary. I planned to reveal everything and propose we use that money for the trip to Italy we always dreamed of. But the illness came before she could tell me. My eyes stung. Our 30th anniversary would have been in September 2021, but Elizabeth died in March. We never celebrated that date. We never took that dream trip to Rome and Florence we'd talked about since we were young. In total, I managed to save $47,000 over the years. I also took out an additional life insurance policy for $23,000 5 years ago. I knew that if something happened to me, you'd need that financial security to live with dignity and to help Trish and the kids when it was truly necessary. $70,000. My wife had put aside $70,000 without my knowing. A sum that could help me live comfortably in my remaining years, that gave me freedom to make decisions without fear, that made me truly financially independent. The documents are in this box, my love. The insurance certificate, the account statements, all the legal paperwork you'll need. I left clear instructions so you can access everything without trouble. I trust your wisdom to use this money in the best way. I examined the contents more closely. There they were, the account statements showing regular deposits of $200 to $300 for years. A life insurance policy with State Farm I'd known nothing about, legal forms already prepared to make the claims easy. I know Trish can be impatient about money sometimes, but remember she's a good woman who hasn't yet learned the true value of things. Use your judgment about how and when to share this information. Not everyone in the family needs to know every detail of our finances. A bitter irony settled in my chest. Elizabeth wrote about Trish's impatience with money, but she could never have imagined our daughter would wish me dead out loud. If my wife had lived to hear those words, it would have shattered her. You'll also find my personal journal. During the last months of my illness, I wrote reflections about our family, my hopes for the future, and my worries. Read it when you need me close, when you need my advice for hard decisions. I took the small leather journal and flipped through it, page after page in her neat handwriting, dated from January to March 2021, her final months. A quick glance showed notes about Trish, the grandkids, thoughts about money and family, worries about my future as a widower. My last request, Nick, is that you use this inheritance to live with the dignity you deserve. Don't let anyone make you feel like a burden or disposable. You deserve to be respected, loved, and valued by the people who say they love you. If someone doesn't recognize your worth, maybe it's time they reconsider how important you are in their life. Those final words pierced me. It was as if Elizabeth had seen exactly what happened tonight, as if she knew a moment would come when I had to remember my own worth and my right to be treated with respect. I love you beyond death. I trust you'll make the right choices. This inheritance is my final gift to you, and my way to make sure you never feel powerless or dependent on anyone. You are a good, strong, wise man. Act like it. The letter ended with her signature. Your wife who loves you forever, Elizabeth, and a small heart she used to draw on her romantic notes. I sat on the bed for a long time, processing everything. $70,000, a sum that completely changed my situation, that gave me a power I hadn't known I had. As a widower, I'd lived carefully, counting expenses, limiting small joys, feeling the pressure of relying mostly on my pension. But now I had resources, independence, options. Trish's cruel words echoed again in my mind, but now with a different meaning. You should have been the one to die. She had no idea what I'd just discovered. She had no clue that the father she'd called wasteful and stuck in the past actually had resources she never imagined. For the first time since that humiliating dinner, a smile crossed my face. Not a happy smile, but one of understanding, strength, and new possibilities opening like doors I'd never noticed. Elizabeth had given me more than money. She'd given me the tool to teach our daughter the real value of respect, gratitude, and the consequences of words spoken with genuine malice. My wife, even in death, was still protecting me, still my strongest ally. Monday, December 11th, dawned different. For the first time in months, I woke with a clear purpose, a determination I hadn't felt since the days after Elizabeth's funeral. The inheritance revelation changed not just my finances, it changed how I saw my family and my own worth. I ate breakfast calmly, reviewing the documents Elizabeth had saved so carefully. The numbers were real, the figures added up. $47,000 in a Chase Bank savings account, $23,000 in a State Farm life policy, $70,000 that turned me from a worried retiree into a man with enough resources to make independent choices. But beyond money, what truly changed was how I saw our family dynamic. For years, Trish had treated my financial help as normal, as something she was owed. $180 a month I transferred religiously to help with household bills. $85 I paid directly every month to her auto insurance. Another $200 to $300 here and there for emergencies, gifts for the grandkids, unexpected costs. Doing the math, I realized I'd given Trish around $22,000 over the past 5 years, a large amount she received without ever showing real gratitude, treating it like my duty instead of a father's generosity. You should have been the one to die. The words still rang out, but I heard them from a different place now. I wasn't last night's helpless victim anymore. I was a man with options, resources, and the power to make decisions with real consequences for those who had disrespected me. At 10 a.m., I called the law firm of Miller & Associates, where attorney James Miller had handled a few minor matters for Elizabeth and me years back. James is serious and meticulous, with 20 years of experience in estate and banking work. "Good morning, Mr. Walker," his assistant said. "How can we help today?" "I need an urgent appointment with Mr. Miller. I have inheritance documents that require verification and immediate legal guidance." They gave me a 3 p.m. slot. I used those 5 hours to get organized, to plan something beyond verifying papers. If I was going to teach Trish about respect, I had to be smart and systematic, with consequences that educated rather than punished. I arrived at James's office with everything neatly filed in a manila folder. His office radiated seriousness, shelves packed with law books, framed diplomas, a heavy desk where he'd handled thousands of cases. "Mr. Walker, my deepest condolences again for Elizabeth's passing. She was an extraordinary woman." James had that mix of professionalism and human warmth that inspires trust. Tell me how I can help. I explained everything in detail: the hidden box, the letter from beyond, the bank and insurance documents. James examined each page like an investigator, checking signatures, dates, account numbers, terms, and conditions. "This is all legitimate, Mr. Walker," he confirmed after 40 minutes. "Your wife was very smart about how she set this up. The Chase account lists you as the direct beneficiary, and the State Farm policy meets all the requirements. We can begin the claims right away." "How long could it take?" "For the bank account, about a week at most. Insurance might take 15 to 20 days, but it's routine paperwork. I don't expect any issues." "Perfect. In less than a month, I'd have full access to the $70,000. But I had another reason for seeing James. "Mr. Miller, I need your advice on something else. I have an adult daughter who receives regular financial support from me, but she recently disrespected me deeply. What are my legal rights to stop that help?" James nodded, professional and understanding. He'd probably seen similar cases many times. "Mr. Walker, any financial help you provide voluntarily can be stopped at any time, as long as there's no legal contract obligating you. If these are family gifts or transfers, you're entirely free to change or end them. What if she claims financial dependence? Unless there's a proven legal disability or a signed agreement binding you to that support, you have no legal obligation. Your daughter is an adult, married, presumably able to earn her own income." Exactly what I needed to hear. My support for Trish had always been voluntary, born of fatherly love and a desire to help my grandkids. We never formalized anything. She assumed my generosity was permanent and unquestionable. "One more question, Mr. Miller. If I stop the help, should I notify her in writing?" "Absolutely. A written notice protects you and keeps things clear. We can draft a polite but firm letter." I left James's office with more than verified documents. I left with a complete legally supported plan to teach Trish a lesson about respect and gratitude, without cruelty. That night, I sat in my study and mapped out my steps. First, finish the paperwork to access Elizabeth's inheritance. Second, gradually suspend all financial support to Trish. Third, keep the inheritance absolutely secret until I decide what to do. Trish had wished me dead, imagining she'd inherit something valuable. Ironically, my survival would cost her more than she ever imagined. The lesson I was about to teach wasn't about money. It was about dignity, respect, and the real consequences of hurtful words spoken with malice toward someone who loved unconditionally. Elizabeth had given me the tools. It was up to me to use them wisely. On Thursday, December 14th, exactly a week after starting the first steps with James Miller, I got the call I'd been waiting for from Chase Bank. The transfer of the $47,000 from Elizabeth's savings to my account had been approved and processed. It was surreal to see that number on my online statement, a figure 5 times my previous savings. That afternoon, as I reviewed the bank documents in my study, I made my final decision. Trish had had 4 days to reflect on her words, 4 chances to call and apologize for the humiliation she caused me. Instead, she stayed silent, which I read as indifference, or worse, confirmation that she meant what she said. I logged into online banking. I found the automatic monthly transfer of $180 I'd been sending to Trish on the 15th for 5 years. With 3 clicks, I canceled it. Then I called my bank manager, Michael Sanders, to confirm the cancellation and make sure there were no mistakes. "Mr. Walker, the recurring transfer to Patricia Roberts has been canceled successfully. Would you like to reschedule or change the amount?" "No, Michael. The cancellation is permanent. No more transfers to that account." "Understood, sir. Anything else I can help with?" "Yes. Please confirm that tomorrow, the 15th, no transfer will go out to my daughter." "Confirmed, Mr. Walker. The system shows no scheduled transfers to that account." The next step required more care. For 5 years, I'd paid Trish's auto insurance directly to Allstate, $85 a month automatically on the 20th. I called and asked for the cancellations department. Good morning, this is Nicholas Walker. I'm the paying party on policy number 4178912 in the name of Patricia Roberts. I need to cancel my responsibility for payment on that policy. The agent, who introduced herself as Anna Blake, explained the process. Mr. Walker, to remove your payment authorization, we need the policyholder to sign and assume responsibility, or the policy will lapse after a 30-day grace period for non-payment. I understand. Please proceed with canceling my automatic payment. If Ms. Roberts wants to keep the policy active, she can contact you directly. Would you like us to notify the policyholder about this change? You may send your standard notice, but I'm not authorizing any details about my reasons. It mattered to me that Trish received the news gradually, that she understand each loss of financial support was a direct consequence of her actions, not a random whim. That night, I called David, my son-in-law, on his personal phone. We'd always had a cordial relationship, and he looked deeply uncomfortable during the scene on Sunday. He's a hard-working, responsible man who genuinely cares about family harmony. Hi, David. It's Nick. Got a minute? Of course, Mr. Walker. How are you? I wanted to call and apologize for what happened Sunday. Trish was very upset about work and... David, thank you, but I need to tell you something important. For years, I've provided regular financial help to Trish. Starting this month, that help is suspended indefinitely. There was a long silence. I imagined David processing the implications. Mr. Walker, is this because of what Trish said on Sunday? Words have consequences, David, especially when they're meant to wound. Your wife wished me dead in front of my grandkids. That crosses lines we can't ignore. I understand, sir. Is there any way to fix this? Trish can be impulsive, but she's a good person. David, I respect you, which is why I'm telling you directly. I have no issue with you or the kids, but Trish needs to learn that respect isn't optional in a family. What can I do to help? Nothing for now. Trish has to decide whether those words truly reflect how she feels about me, or whether she's ready to admit she was horribly wrong. I hung up feeling oddly calm. I wasn't acting out of revenge or bitterness, but out of principle. Elizabeth always taught me that respect is the foundation of any healthy relationship, and allowing serious disrespect without consequences is a way of approving it. Friday, December 15th, came and went. For the first time in 5 years, I didn't send any money to Trish's account. For the first time in that same period, she would have to handle her monthly bills without counting on the automatic $180. I went about my day, bought groceries, read the paper, ordered a few books online. My routine felt normal, but underneath was a sense of empowerment I hadn't felt in months. At 6 p.m., my phone rang. Trish. Dad, good afternoon. I'm calling because I didn't get the monthly transfer. I'm guessing there was a bank error. Her tone was casual, almost careless. Clearly, she hadn't connected the missing money with the consequences of her words. There was no error, Trish. I canceled the transfer. What do you mean you canceled it? Why? Because I've decided to be more careful with my expenses. At my age, I have to be prudent with my finances. But Dad, you know David and I rely on that help for household expenses. The kids have activities. We have commitments. Trish, you're an adult woman, married to a working man. I'm sure you can adjust your family budget. You can't do this without warning. I have bills to pay. Bills are the responsibility of the people who incur them, not the parents who've been extending voluntary help. I hung up before she could continue. I wasn't going to let her yell at me or manipulate me emotionally. I'd made a principled decision, and I would stick to it despite her protests. The phone rang again immediately, but I didn't answer. Trish would have to get used to her new financial reality, a reality where hurtful words have real, lasting consequences. The next few days were peaceful for me. in contrast to the anxiety Trish must have felt. My phone rang 17 times over the weekend, every call from my daughter, which I let go to voicemail. Text messages piled up, pleas, excuses, attempts to bargain, and finally angry accusations about my cruelty and lack of family feeling. On Monday, December 18th, I went for a walk in Liberty Park, something I do regularly to keep my body and mind healthy. It was a crisp, sunny morning, perfect for reflecting on recent events while watching families enjoy their day off from school. Near the fountain by the old bandstand, my phone buzzed. It was David. This time I answered, curious about his perspective. "Mr. Walker, good morning. Could we meet to talk? Trish is really upset, and I think we need a calm conversation." "Of course, David. Where would you like to meet?" "Do you know the Corner Cup Cafe near Maple Avenue? We could meet there in an hour." The Corner Cup is a quiet spot. Regulars from the neighborhood, a few retirees who play cards in the afternoons. David was already waiting when I arrived, sitting at a table in the back, looking more worried than when he greeted me. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Walker. Can I order you a coffee?" "Sure, a small coffee is fine." David looked like he'd aged several years in 1 week. The circles under his eyes told of long nights, probably spent arguing with Trish about the new family budget. "Mr. Walker, I'll be frank. The suspension of your help has affected us more than we expected. Trish had to cancel Ella's piano lessons and Mark's sports, and yesterday we got a notice from the insurance company about the car policy. I know it's complicated, David, but you'll adjust." "We will. I'm already looking for weekend hours, and Trish may increase her hours at the office. But what really worries me is the impact on the kids. They don't understand why they can't keep doing their activities." The mention of my grandkids hurt more than I expected. Mark and Ella were innocent here, collateral damage from their mother's choices, but I couldn't let emotional pressure knock me off my principles. "David, the kids will learn valuable lessons about family finances. It's not bad for them to see that resources have limits and need to be managed carefully." "Mr. Walker, Trish knows she was wrong on Sunday. She's willing to apologize formally if it helps." "Is she willing? Or do you think she should be?" David sighed. She says you're overreacting, that it was a comment in a moment of frustration, and it shouldn't have such severe consequences." There it was. Trish felt no real remorse. She was just angry about the money. She didn't grasp the gravity of wishing her own father dead in front of his grandchildren. "David, let me explain something Trish might not have considered. For 5 years, I've transferred over $20,000, money I could have used on my own needs and joys. I did it because I love my daughter and want to help my grandkids." "We know, sir, and we're grateful." "Grateful? Has Trish ever thanked me sincerely? Has she ever recognized that it's generosity, not an obligation?" David stayed quiet, confirming my suspicion. Trish had normalized my help so much that she saw it as a right, not a gift. When someone wishes you dead, David, they're saying your life is worth less than what they think they could gain without you. That's not fleeting frustration. That's a revelation of values. But families say hurtful things sometimes, Mr. Walker. I'm sure you and Mrs. Walker argued. In 32 years of marriage, Elizabeth never wished me dead, and I never said anything like that to her. There's a difference between arguing and wanting someone you love gone from the world. David nodded slowly, beginning to grasp what Trish had really said. This wasn't a simple family spat. It was a statement about how much my life mattered to her. "What would it take for you to restore the financial help?" "It's not about restoring anything. It's about Trish understanding that family ties rely on love and mutual respect. If she truly believes I should be dead, then logically she shouldn't want or need my financial help." "Then what do you suggest we do?" Trish needs to think deeply about how she really sees her father. If she concludes she loves and respects me, that her words were a terrible mistake she truly regrets, then we can talk. But if she still says I'm overreacting, there's nothing to discuss. I finished my coffee and stood. David looked defeated, caught between loyalty to his wife and a growing understanding that she had crossed an unforgivable line. David, I respect you, and I hope this doesn't affect our relationship. The kids will always be welcome at my house, and you too. But Trish must decide whether she wants to be my daughter or someone who wishes me dead. I left the cafe with a mix of sadness and resolve. The talk confirmed that Trish still didn't understand the gravity of her actions, but it also showed my strategy was working. The financial consequences were forcing her to face what she'd said. The pressure would increase in the next few days, especially when she received the official notice about the car insurance. On Wednesday, December 20th, right on schedule, Trish got Allstate's official notice. Her auto policy would be canceled for non-payment if she didn't assume responsibility before December 31st. The call came at 9:30 a.m. while I was having breakfast in my kitchen, reading the sports section. "Dad, what did you do with the car insurance?" Her voice was on the edge of panic. "They just called and said you canceled the payment." "Good morning, Trish. Yes, that's correct. I canceled my payment authorization on your policy." "I can't be without a car. I need it for work, for the kids' school, for everything." "Then I suppose you'll need to pay the premium yourself. It's $85 a month. I'm sure you and David can adjust your budget." $85 we don't have, especially now that you canceled the monthly help too. You can't do this to us. Her desperation was real, but it revealed something deeper. For 5 years, she'd enjoyed over $300 a month in benefits without thinking about my sacrifices or what would happen if the help stopped. "Trish, I can do this because it's my money, and because people who wish me dead shouldn't expect me to finance their lifestyle." "I don't want you dead. I was just angry." "Oh, then when people get angry, it's normal to wish death on their loved ones." Interesting viewpoint. "Dad, please, you're being cruel." "Cruel would be wishing you dead, Trish. I'm just being consistent. If my life has no value to you, then my money shouldn't either." I hung up before she could keep shouting. I'd noticed something important in her tone, still no real apology. Her words focused on her consequences, not the harm done to me. Self-pity, not remorse. That afternoon, I visited my grandkids at school, not to interfere with Trish, but to keep my relationship with Mark and Ella, who were truly innocent. I waited by the exit like I had many times when Elizabeth was alive, and we planned family outings. "Grandpa!" Ella ran to me with that beautiful spontaneity of children, followed by Mark, 12 and still openly affectionate with his grandpa. "Hey, you two, want to grab ice cream?" I took them to Sweet Scoops, the shop we often visited. Ella always chose chocolate hazelnut. Mark liked vanilla with berries. While they ate, I gently asked how things were at home. "How are piano lessons, Ella?" She made a face. "Mom says I have to stop piano for a while because it costs too much, and Mark can't keep playing soccer." "And how do you feel about that?" "Sad," Mark said, "but Dad says it's temporary and soon we can go back." It hurt to know the kids were paying for their mother's choices, but it comforted me that David gave them hopeful explanations. I didn't want my grandkids to suffer more than necessary. "Grandpa," Ella looked at me with big, innocent eyes, "why do Mom and Dad argue so much lately? Mom was crying last night." "Sometimes adults have problems to solve, sweetheart, but that doesn't change how much we love you." "Do you also have problems with Mom?" Mark asked, as perceptive as preteens can be. "Your mom and I have differences to work through, but that doesn't change how much I love you both." I drove them home and hugged them long. As I walked to my car, I saw Trish watching me from the living room window, her face a mix of resentment and pleading. She didn't come out. David probably advised her to avoid public scenes. That night around 10 p.m., my doorbell rang. Trish stood there alone, eyes puffy from crying, wearing an oversized black coat, looking like someone who hadn't slept well in days. "Dad, we need to talk." I invited her in, but kept an emotional distance. She sat on the couch where we'd spent so many happy family afternoons, but now the room felt heavy with tension and mutual hurt. "Dad, I know I was wrong on Sunday. I shouldn't have said what I said." "You shouldn't have said it, or you shouldn't have thought it." "Both. I shouldn't have done either." "Trish, you had a week to call and apologize. Instead, you yelled on the phone, sent messages accusing me of cruelty, and had David negotiate with me. When exactly did you feel genuine remorse?" "I have, Dad, but I'm scared. Without your help, David and I can't keep the same standard of living for the kids. So what you really regret are the financial consequences, not the emotional damage you caused me." She stayed quiet for a long time. In that silence, I could see her calculating which words might get the money flowing again. "Dad, I love you. I always have. That night I was so stressed. Work issues, bills, 1,000 things. I didn't think about what I was saying. When someone wishes death on another person, even in stress, they reveal thoughts that already existed. Stress doesn't create new ideas. It just frees the ones that were suppressed. So you'll never forgive me? You'll punish me for the rest of your life?" "I'm not punishing you, Trish. I'm protecting my dignity. If you truly believe the world would be better without me, then it's logical you live your life without depending on me financially." She stood abruptly, tears of frustration in her eyes. "Fine, you win. We'll be broke, but at least your pride will be intact." She slammed the door on her way out, the echo rolling through the house. That night before bed, I reread parts of Elizabeth's journal. In a February 2021 entry, she wrote, "Trish sometimes confuses love with convenience. I hope she learns to value Nick for who he is, not for what he can give. Even in her last months, my wife saw our daughter's tendency to prioritize material benefits over real emotional bonds. The confrontation confirmed it. Trish felt no true remorse, only fear about her finances. The lesson would continue." The days after that tense night passed in a silence heavier than any argument. It was the quiet that comes before a storm, when everyone knows we've reached a point of no return. On Friday, December 22nd, I got an unexpected call from Carol Reeves, the owner of the flower shop where Elizabeth had secretly worked 8 years. Carol was a close friend of my wife, though I only knew her from quick market hellos. "Mr. Walker, I hope I'm not bothering you. This is Carol from Carol's Flowers. Elizabeth worked with me for many years." "Of course, Carol. How can I help?" "I've been thinking about Elizabeth a lot, especially with the holidays. She spoke of you with such love. She once told me she left you a letter explaining her work here." "Yes, I found the letter a few weeks ago. I was surprised to learn how long she worked with you." Elizabeth was extraordinary, Mr. Walker, very private about her personal life. But she sometimes shared her worries about Trish. She feared your daughter didn't appreciate the sacrifices you made. Her words struck me deeply. Elizabeth had shared her concerns with Carol, meaning those worries were real and long-standing, not casual remarks. "Carol, could we meet? I'd like to understand Elizabeth's perspective better." "Of course. How about tomorrow at the shop around 6 after I close?" On Saturday, December 23rd, I arrived at Carol's Flowers at 6:15. A small, warm place, full of natural scents and bright colors that reflected Carol's caring personality. She greeted me with a soft smile and offered coffee as she locked up. "Elizabeth came 3 afternoons a week," Carol began while brewing coffee. "At first I thought she just wanted something to do after raising Trish. Soon I realized she had a purpose. She wanted a safety fund for you. She talked about it all the time. Nick sacrifices so much for us, always thinking of Trish and me first. I want to make sure when I'm gone, he can live with dignity without depending on anyone." Carol's words echoed Elizabeth's letter, confirming that my future well-being had been her constant motivation. "She also worried about Trish," Carol continued. "She felt Trish took your generosity for granted and rarely showed real gratitude." "Do you remember any example?" "Yes, several. When you paid for family vacations or extras for the kids, Trish would talk about what else you should be doing instead of thanking you for what you'd already done. Elizabeth would say, "My daughter treats Nick like a resource, not like a father who deserves respect." Hearing this gave me equal parts validation and sorrow. My wife had seen exactly what I was only now accepting. Trish had built a sense of entitlement around my support. "Mr. Walker, if something happened and you needed a friend who knew Elizabeth well, she asked me to reach out. She knew there might come a time when Trish would make you feel guilty for protecting your own interests." "Carol, do you think Elizabeth would approve of my recent decisions?" "You mean suspending the financial help?" "Absolutely. Elizabeth told me more than once. If Trish ever treats Nick badly, I hope he has the strength to stand up for himself. My biggest fear is he'll be manipulated by family guilt after I'm gone." That comforted me deeply. Elizabeth not only foresaw a situation like this, she hoped I'd be strong enough to resist emotional manipulation. "Carol, did Trish ever visit the shop while Elizabeth worked here?" "Once, about 3 years ago. Elizabeth got nervous when she saw her. She asked me not to mention that she worked here regularly. Later, she explained that if Trish knew she was making extra money, Trish would pressure her to quit and spend that time babysitting or doing errands to save the family money." That fit perfectly with the pattern I'd seen. Trish always looking to maximize what she could get, without considering others' needs or wishes. I left the flower shop with a much clearer understanding of the family dynamics Elizabeth had observed for years. My wife wasn't only forward-thinking, saving money for my future. She was also a sharp observer who had identified character problems in our daughter long before they exploded. That night, eating dinner alone in my kitchen, I reflected on the last few weeks. Elizabeth's letter, the bank documents, the talks with David, the confrontation with Trish, and now Carol's memories, all formed a clear picture that supported the decisions I'd made. Trish had developed a fundamentally transactional relationship with me, valuing more what I provided than who I was. Her cruel words weren't a sudden outburst. They were the honest expression of resentment toward someone who no longer provided benefits at the level she expected. On Sunday, December 24th, Christmas Eve, my phone stayed silent. No call from Trish, no messages, no attempt at holiday peace. David didn't call either. It was clear they chose to spend the holidays without me, hoping loneliness would make me cave and restart the money. But I had other plans. I invited Carol and 2 widowed neighbors for dinner. I cooked the roast turkey Elizabeth taught me, opened a special bottle of wine, and enjoyed a warm evening with people who appreciated me for who I am, not for what I can provide financially. For the first time in months, I felt truly at peace. The lesson for Trish would continue, but I had learned something just as important. My value doesn't depend on my daughter's approval or financial needs. January 2nd, 2024, marked the start of a year that would change our family forever. Trish spent the holidays without contacting me, no doubt hoping nostalgia would soften me. But I'd had a quiet, thoughtful Christmas that confirmed my well-being didn't depend on maintaining toxic patterns, even with my own child. That morning, while planning my week, my phone rang insistently. It was Trish, and for the first time in weeks, I answered. "Dad?" Her voice sounded broken, not like the demanding, manipulative tone from before. I need to talk to you urgently." "Good morning, Trish. What's going on?" "Dad, we're in serious trouble. David lost his job on December 30th. His company canceled several projects due to the economy and laid off 20 employees." The news hit me hard. David is responsible and dedicated. Losing a job at that time must have been devastating. But I stayed calm. "Without David's paycheck and without your monthly help, we can't pay January's rent. The landlord said if we don't pay by the 10th, he'll start eviction." "Trish, I'm very sorry about David. He's a hard worker, and I'm sure he'll find something soon." "Please, Dad, We need your help. The kids can't lose their home." For the first time in weeks, Trish was pleading, not demanding or bargaining. Her desperation sounded real, and it awakened my protective instinct. "How much do you need for rent?" $900. I know it's a lot, but if you help us this time, David will find work quickly and will pay you back." $900, a sum I could cover easily thanks to Elizabeth's gift. But this wasn't just about money. It was about principles and healthy boundaries. "Trish, before I consider any help, I need to know something important. Have you truly thought about the words you said on December 10? Do you understand the damage you caused?" There was a long silence. I could hear her shaky breathing. "Dad, I know I was terribly wrong. I've thought about it for weeks, especially as this crisis hit us. I realized I took your help for granted and never truly thanked you for everything you've done for years. And about wishing me dead? It was the cruelest thing I've ever said to anyone. I'm ashamed just remembering it. The kids asked why we don't go to your house anymore, and I didn't know how to answer without feeling awful." Her tone had changed completely. For the first time, I heard genuine remorse, not just fear over money. "Trish, do you understand that when someone says another person should be dead, they're saying that life has no value?" "Yes, Dad. And it's horrible I said that about you, the best father I could have had. Mom always told me you were exceptional, and I lost sight of that because of my own problems." Her mention of Elizabeth moved me. Trish rarely referenced her mother's advice, but crisis had forced her to face things she had ignored. "Trish, I'll help with January's rent, but with clear conditions." "Yes, anything, Dad." "First, this is a loan, not a gift. When David finds work, you'll repay me. Small monthly amounts are fine. Second, if you ever disrespect me like that again, there won't be second chances. Third, I want you and David at my house this weekend for an honest family conversation about our future." "Dad, I accept all your conditions, and I want you to know I've learned a hard lesson about family and your importance in our lives. I'll transfer the money this afternoon. But understand this. Our crisis could have been smaller if you'd kept a respectful relationship with me from the start." "I know, Dad. I know." After I hung up, I sat in my study for a long time, processing the conversation. Trish finally showed real remorse, but it took a severe crisis to get there. Without David's job and my prior help, they had reached the edge. I sent the $900 that afternoon with mixed feelings. I was glad to help my grandkids in a tough moment. But I knew Trish needed a near disaster to truly value my support and my presence. On Friday, January 5th, David got an interview with Heritage Home Remodelers. On Saturday the 6th, both he and Trish came to my house for the talk we'd agreed on. Trish looked different, more humble, more mature, but also more tired, with the sleepless look of someone who almost lost everything. "Dad," Trish began, "I want to apologize formally, not just for what I said, but for how I've acted for years. Carol told me Mom worked at her flower shop and worried that I didn't value you enough. That surprised me. You spoke with Carol?" "Yes, I went to buy flowers for Mom's little home altar, and Carol recognized me. She told me how Mom worried that I took your sacrifices for granted." David spoke up. "Mr. Walker, this crisis made us rethink a lot. Trish and I want to rebuild a healthier, fairer family relationship." "I'm glad to hear it," I said, "but words must be backed by consistent actions." "We know, Dad," Trish said. "We want to start over, with real gratitude and real respect." For the first time in months, I felt we might find a path to reconciliation, but I also knew the real test would be time, whether their new attitude lasted when the immediate crisis passed. The lesson had worked, but rebuilding trust had only begun. The next months brought slow but meaningful change. David got the job at Heritage Home Remodelers on January 15th with a starting salary of $1,400 a month, $200 less than before, but enough for a tight budget. Trish increased her hours at the administrative firm where she worked, moving from part-time to full-time. The most notable change, though, was Trish's attitude toward me. For the first time in years, she called regularly, not to ask for money or favors, but simply to talk, to check on me, to invite me to family dinners where I was treated like an honored guest, not a social obligation. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, Trish showed up at my door with a bouquet from Carol's and a handwritten card. It read, "To the best dad in the world, thank you for teaching me the value of respect and gratitude. I love you." "Dad," she said with teary eyes, "I wanted to bring you something special. I've been thinking about how many times Mom told me to get you flowers or a small gift for special days, and I always found excuses. It wasn't necessary, Trish, but I appreciate it." "It was necessary, Dad. For years I focused on what you could do for me, and never on what I could do for you." That February, Trish also brought me the first repayment on the $900, $150 in cash, with a detailed plan to pay the rest in the coming months. "Dad, I know you said we could repay slowly, but David and I want to finish fast. We don't want this debt hanging over everything after all you've done for us." In March, Trish surprised me with something I didn't expect. "Dad, David and I want to do something special for you. Would you like us to plan a family trip for the anniversary of Mom's passing? We could visit her grave together and spend the weekend somewhere she would have loved." The idea moved me deeply. For 2 years, I had visited Elizabeth's grave alone, bringing flowers and having silent conversations with her memory. Sharing that with my family, especially with Trish, felt like a step toward real healing. "That's a beautiful idea," I said. "Your mother would love knowing we're together on such an important date." We planned the weekend of March 15th. We went to Oak Ridge Cemetery in the morning, where Trish and the kids helped clean Elizabeth's headstone and placed a lovely arrangement Trish designed with Carol. Mark and Ella wrote letters to their grandmother and left them with the flowers. Afterward, we drove to Savannah, Georgia, a city Elizabeth always loved for its historic charm. Trish booked rooms at a small hotel near the riverfront, and David researched classic places where we could enjoy slow-roasted pork and other dishes Elizabeth adored. During that family dinner in Savannah, Trish made a confession that surprised me. "Dad, I need to tell you something. These past months I've been reading Mom's journal. I found it among her things after you started organizing her clothes to donate." I paused. Elizabeth wrote very personal reflections in that journal, including some painful observations about Trish. "Sweetheart, that journal holds very private thoughts from your mother." "I know, Dad, and that's why I needed to read it. I wanted to see how she really saw me, not the daughter I thought I was, but the person I actually was." "And what did you find?" "I found a mother who loved me deeply but worried about my character. She wrote things like, 'Trish is smart and capable, but sometimes treats Nick like an employee, not a father, and I'm afraid our daughter hasn't learned gratitude.'" David added, "Mr. Walker, reading those pages was hard for Trish, but necessary. It helped her understand perspectives she'd ignored." "Dad," Trish continued, "Mom also wrote beautiful things about you. She said you were the most generous man she'd ever known, that you always put family first, and that you deserve to be valued and respected for all you give." Those words moved me so much I had to step out onto the balcony to breathe. Elizabeth, even in death, was still my most loyal defender. Back home on Sunday night, Trish asked me to come by their house to show me something special. In the living room, she'd framed a photo of Elizabeth from our last wedding anniversary, with a quote from the journal beneath it. "My greatest wish is that Nick be happy and feel loved for the rest of his life. Dad, I want this to be visible every day, to remind me what kind of daughter Mom hoped I'd be and what kind of respect you deserve." In April, Trish finished paying back the $900, but surprised me by handing me $1,000. Dad, the extra $100 is interest, and my way of saying thank you for the lesson you taught me. That financial crisis was terrible, but it was necessary for me to grow up and learn the real value of family. On May 15th, Trish hosted a special family dinner and invited Carol, publicly acknowledging her friendship with Elizabeth and thanking her for the guidance she gave me during the hard months. During dinner, Trish stood to make a toast I'll never forget. I want to toast my dad, Nick, the man who taught me that true family love includes boundaries, consequences, and mutual respect. Thank you for not letting my bad attitude destroy our relationship forever. That night, back home, I reread Elizabeth's letter. Her final line meant more than ever. I trust you'll make the right choices. Elizabeth was right. The choices I made, though painful, were the right ones. They protected my dignity and helped Trish become a better daughter and a better person. Elizabeth's secret inheritance wasn't just money. It was a lesson about respect, the importance of boundaries, and the power of consequences applied with firm love. December 2024, 1 year after the dinner that changed our lives. As I write these reflections in my study, I look out the window and see Trish helping the kids decorate the Christmas tree in their yard. The scene fills me with a deep peace I haven't felt in years, the peace that comes from knowing I made the right choices even when they were the hardest. Trish's transformation has been real and steady. In these 12 months, not once has she disrespected me, manipulated me, or treated my help as owed. Every act of support has been received with genuine gratitude. Every favor has been recognized for what it always was, a voluntary generosity, not a parental duty. David found stability at his new company and received 2 raises this year. Trish was promoted to supervisor at her firm, raising their household income. But more important than money was the change in their priorities and values. On December 10th, 2024, exactly a year after those cruel words, Trish hosted a family dinner to mark what we now call Awakening Day. It was emotional. We talked about the lessons learned and the personal growth that came from that crisis. "Dad," Trish told me at dinner, "I'm grateful every day that you had the strength to teach me such a hard but necessary lesson. If you had given in to my manipulations, if you had restarted the money right away, I would never have truly grown." Mark, now 13, spoke too. "Grandpa, at first I didn't understand why Mom cried so much and why Dad worked more hours, but now I see families sometimes need to go through hard times to value each other more." Ella, now 10, added with a child's wisdom, "Grandpa, Mom says she didn't know how to say thank you before. Now she teaches us to say thank you for everything." Over these months, I completed all the legal steps for Elizabeth's inheritance. The $70,000 is in an investment account that brings modest but steady income. I've decided to keep that secret indefinitely. Trish doesn't need to know. Our relationship is no longer based on financial dependence, but on real love and respect. Carol has become a close friend, someone I share memories of Elizabeth with and talk through life with. A few weeks ago, she told me Trish visits the flower shop regularly, not just to buy flowers, but to talk about her mother and ask how to be a better daughter. "Mr. Walker," Carol said, "Elizabeth would be proud of how much Trish has grown, but I think she'd be even prouder of the strength you showed to teach that lesson." In March this year, on the 3rd anniversary of Elizabeth's passing, we repeated the family trip to Savannah. But this time, Trish added something special. She'd made a photo album of Elizabeth from old boxes with quotes from the journal about family love, mutual respect, and valuing people for who they are, not for what they provide. "Dad," she said as we turned the pages, "I've learned that Mom didn't just leave you money in secret. She left you something much more valuable, the wisdom to be firm out of love." That line struck me deeply. It captured exactly what I had lived. The money mattered, yes, but the moral inheritance mattered more. It taught me that true parental love sometimes requires toughness, that setting boundaries protects your own dignity and the other person's growth. 2 weeks ago, Trish surprised me with a proposal that showed how deeply she'd taken last year's lessons to heart. Dad, David, and I have been saving for months, and we want to give you something special. Would you let us organize and fully pay for that trip to Italy you always dreamed of with Mom? It will be our gift to you, without you spending a single dollar. The offer moved me so much I couldn't answer at first. For 30 years, Elizabeth and I dreamed of visiting Rome, Florence, and Venice. It was our plan for the anniversary we never reached, that Trish remembered and wanted to make it real as a genuine gift with no strings, showed how completely she'd changed. Trish, it's a beautiful gesture, but know this, the most valuable thing you gave me this year isn't a trip. It's your respect, your gratitude, and your honest love. Dad, you always deserve that respect. The fact that I lost it and had to earn it back is something I'll always be ashamed of. Now, as I finish these thoughts in December 2024, I can say with certainty, the hardest decisions I made were the right ones. Stopping my financial support wasn't cruelty. It was teaching. Standing firm against manipulation wasn't lack of love. It was real love, expressed through necessary boundaries. Elizabeth was right in her letter. There came a time when I had to remember my own value, defend my dignity, and show that healthy family relationships are built on mutual respect, not convenience. Elizabeth's secret inheritance changed my life, but not because of the dollars. It changed me because it gave me the security and confidence to act on principle, to teach hard lessons, and to rebuild our family on stronger, more honest ground. Today, when Trish calls every Sunday just to ask how I'm doing, when she invites me to dinners where I'm treated like an honored guest, when she hugs me and says, "I love you, Dad," with a sincerity I hadn't heard in years, I know every tear, every lonely night, every hard boundary was worth it. My wife Elizabeth taught me, even after her death, that true love sometimes means the courage to say no, the strength to hold a line, and the wisdom to tell the difference between helping and enabling. Trish learned that words have consequences, that respect isn't optional, and that real gratitude is the base of healthy family ties. I learned that I have worth no matter what I can provide, that I deserve real respect and love, and that sometimes the most important lessons are taught through firm love, not easy permissiveness. Elizabeth's true inheritance wasn't the $70,000 she saved in secret. It was the lesson about respect, the importance of boundaries, and the transforming power of love expressed through firm principles and educational consequences. Thank you, Elizabeth, for teaching me that to love truly is to risk being misunderstood for a moment in order to create understanding that lasts. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thanks for watching.